you've got to be clear about what you are good at as a leader and like how you show up. So if you think about brands, people recognize brands for how they show up. One of the biggest problems with leadership is that leaders often curate a distortion around how they think or wish they could show up versus how they actually show up.
Hi, and thank you for clicking on the link. In today's Uncommon Lunch, we discuss the importance that leadership plays within the role of attracting, retaining, and also making sure that the team within your business actually performs. I hope you like the content, and if you do, feel free to like and share it also so that others can share in the wisdom shared by these two wonderful speakers today. So to my direct right, I've got Byron Rienstra. So Byron is our first returning panelist in the history of running this event. This is our 7th one today. He is one of the two founders and also the managing director of a company called B Partners. Now, B Partners is a senior leaders advisory firm that focuses on high growth, founder-led private organizations. As one of the greatest conversationalists and most intelligent people you'll ever meet, Byron is an award-winning postgraduate of the London School of Economics Institute of Social Psychology. Prior to co-founding B Partners, Byron held numerous executive roles over the last 20 years, spanning 5 countries, which includes Australia, Singapore, Korea, London, and Hong Kong, with time spent in government, banking, telco, and also executive search firms. A couple of highlights include working for Standard Chartered Bank, where he got promoted 5 times in the span of 9 years, starting as a director of communications and organizational change, and leaving as the group head of talent, learning and culture. He worked for Barclays Bank as the HR director and also group COO. Today, in addition to his role at B Partners, Byron is also the chairman of executive search firm Pemberton Stewart, and advisor to Findlay, which is a recruitment firm, both of those based in Singapore, as well as advisor for the global startup generator and early stage VC Antler, who I've heard of plenty of times. Very impressive background. Give him a round of applause if you don't mind. Now, something that you won't find on his LinkedIn profile, which is where I got all the information from, is the fact that he's also a professional, it says professional athlete, is ex-professional athlete?
Yes. Very ex.
Very ex, right. Well, you say that, but in fact, he won the first place at the QTS Series Robina Triathlon in January this year.
January 2020, and they've got a special category for fat bastards. So I won the fat bastards category. So
I think for the filming part, we'll go with my version of the notes, which is wrong, but it says 2022. But fair enough, it's good. He also loves biking with his family along Brisbane River, followed by some flat whites and smashed avos, apparently. Avocados is not a euphemism for something else. Okay. So to the right of Byron, we've got Paul Findlay. So Paul, now, when you hang out with Paul for long enough, it's easy to form this notion that he's dedicated his career to improving human interaction. Whether that be in the workplace or just generally in life. I say this because looking at his profile, Paul has spent about the first half, and I read this earlier today and I thought, so we're saying this is half, which means that we know when it's going to end? No? Okay. We don't know when it's going to end, but about half of how old you're on right now, I guess, working-wise. So first half of his career, working for a number of learning centres, training organisations, and in university in a number of senior management roles. He did so very successfully, being recognised as an emerging international leader in the training industry worldwide by trainingmag.com. On top of that, he served as a board member to the Entrepreneurs Organisation, so EO, as you might know them all, which is alternative to tech. The second half of his career, because we know when it's going to end, was started in 2012 when Paul co-founded PD Training. As a CEO, he drove the company to become the largest of its type across Asia Pacific, delivering more than 4,500 instructor-led classes every year across 6 countries. As if that wasn't enough, if that wasn't enough to keep him busy, in 2014, so just 2 years later, Paul co-founded Reach Ecosystem, the world's first all-in-one people and culture development ecosystem, having combined profiling, 360-degree reviews, culture audits, pulse surveys, and personally curated training content. Today, Reach operates in over 13 countries and is embedded in many organizations that we know as household brands around this room. Paul is a serial entrepreneur, founding or buying different kinds of businesses, from skin clinics and massage businesses to coffee businesses and even laundromats over his journey today. So once you finish getting your head sorted out, you can go for a massage and then have a coffee. Is that how it works? Or
Pretty much, and would pay in coin.
They pay in coin, as in Bitcoin, or?
And Andre, this all can't be quite accurate because I'm only 14. Man,
Right. Okay, cool. So fair enough. Okay, give him a round of applause as well, if you don't mind. Thank you. So the topic, in case you haven't paid attention to the invite, and I got a lot of text messages today saying, where is the event again? So some of you may not have been paying attention, but thank you for making it here though. So the topic is all around the value of our team, and the reason why, or valuing the people in your business. And the reason why we thought about this as a relevant topic is because in previous sessions or events like this, we've spoken to, as I said before, our Lord Mayor. We've had people from a private equity position. We've had ex-Olympians, ex-international sports stars, etc. And no matter who we're talking to, what the topic of conversation was about, at some point, the value or the importance of valuing people within your business came up as the topic of conversation. So it only made sense to talk today about what are some of the things that we can do all in our businesses to both attract and secure and then retain, and then make sure they perform people in our businesses. So just a quick show of hands. Is that relevant to anybody in this room today? Because if it wasn't, you probably wouldn't be here, right? Okay. So it's a very much a relevant topic, no matter who we speak to across our both consulting and recruitment businesses as well. So these two guys are people who can talk about this topic at length, and we've done that many, many times, sometimes at cafes and sometimes over a bottle of wine, and et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm very interested in hearing their viewpoints. And I've also got a couple of other people planted in the room to talk about this even further. We'll keep that as a bit of a surprise. So, first question. Byron, you're an international coach of people who work in different industries, but mainly focused around leaders. Statistically speaking, anything that I've read still suggests that leadership or effective leadership is still one of the biggest contributors to not only company success and failure, statistically speaking, but also to the success and the performance you can get out of people, your people in your business. Now, something, if we extend that further, has also become very important recently because of things like COVID and because of social media taking on so far, because of buoyant job market where people have more choices in terms of who they actually work for. Something that's become really important is the branding of those leaders also, to secure these people into your business in the first place. Because if you're a great leader but nobody knows about it, you're going to struggle to attract people to you as a leader to then lead them. Is this something that you agree with, and are you seeing this, and what are some of the thoughts from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I categorically agree that the notion of leadership is a massive driver of organisational performance. I mean, I was thinking about that statement around brand. You've got to be clear about what you are good at as a leader and like how you show up. So if you think about brands, people recognise brands for how they show up. One of the biggest problems with leadership is that leaders often curate a distortion around how they think or wish they could show up versus how they actually show up. So I mean, one of the first things that we talk to leaders about is don't worry too much about what you say, because most of that just gets ignored almost immediately. You can give me a rousing speech on your company and the motivation, and I'll listen to it. And then as soon as you start behaving in a particular way, I'll test whether or not your behaviors are in alignment with what you said. So you're on stage, you give me a speech about, listen, it's tough times, we need to be judicious with our expenditure, we've got a really tight capital environment, I want everybody to draw their strings in and we're going to struggle through the next year. And everybody goes, get it, boss. And then you walk down, climb into your Ferrari and piss off to your Royal Queensland yacht club or golf squadron and blow $800 on a bottle of Grange that afternoon.
Everyone in the room just went, yeah, it's a Friday night.
What's the point? That beautifully curated speech and that version of yourself as a man of the people is rubbish because people see what you do. So that leadership brand that you push out there is very much about the behaviors, not just the overt behaviors, but also the micro behaviors as well. And one of the, I think the hardest things for leaders to do with regard to their brand is get that balance right between holding people with care. So the story you just told before about Laura, I had a real care for her, her humanity and where she was and how she was getting on with her boyfriend, etc. And then on the other hand, because you're a leader and because you want high performance from people for their sake and for yours, you've got to be able to make demands of them. So how do I hold demand from you? Because if you're lazy, you'll underperform your own abilities and you'll underperform my expectations of you as a leader. But also, how do I do that in a caring way? And if I asked you all to reflect right now and say, okay, where are you on that spectrum? Are you all love and no demand? Or are you all demand and no love? Now, it's unlikely anybody, unless you're a psychopath, is going to be 0 or 100, okay? But it's interesting to reflect on that because you as leaders need to hold both of those if you want sustainable human performance in the workplace.
Really well said. Paul, you, through what you do with Reach, talk to indirectly through the surveying and so on and so forth, to the people who work for the people that Byron was just talking about. So in particular, culture audits and 360 reviews and so on and so forth. So what are some of the statistics and some of the stories you can tell us that comes back from the other side of the fence, I guess, and that's the employees?
Sure. Firstly, I was talking to Byron earlier and said, we'll make sure we have a good chat. He's like, do you know how to get people really engaged? I'm like, how's that? He said, start with, I fundamentally disagree with what the guy next to me said. Unfortunately, he's onto something, so I can't give you that much entertainment. However, to add to that, I have a friend. I'm going to tell a little anecdote really quickly. Who, ironically or poetically, is finishing her job today. She works for a large food supply company. You go down there, it's this giant cold storage facility with we'll do that thing. And this big row of 18 or 20 cold trucks ready to go. She resigned about a month ago, and because she knows I'm into this stuff, I get a daily update of what we call the slow train wreck. And it's fascinating. So it's your last Saturday, 2 people resigned and 12 trucks didn't go out, right? And it's like, yeah, right. Yesterday, 8 trucks didn't go out, 1 person resigned. The day before that, 10 trucks didn't go out, no one resigned that day. But I get this daily update. And the people, it's a supply. So this company has hundreds of staff, and it's a recently merged company. And they supply all different types of businesses, including schools. So the schools ring up and say, we can't do tuck shop for the kids. And the people there are going, oh my goodness, we just had all these kids go hungry because we have bad leaders at the end of the day, is how it all unfolds. And sometimes, just to support the strong part that Byron was saying, there's conversations in that organisation that aren't happening, which are I need these expectations met, I need these quality and these processes followed. Because when you don't do that, it falls apart and it affects the lives of the people there, the performance of the business and the customers. And you really need both sides of it. And I guess I'm going to use one little more anecdote, very short though, to support the love part. People need to want to be there and need to want to do it. So if you go to the science of that, using rats as the example for this moment, if you have 2 rats with a wheel to run on. So before I get into this, we all know that exercise gives you good health outcomes. If you exercise, you have all sorts of good health outcomes, right? It just is the way it is. However, if you have these 2 rats and one rat runs on the wheel by choice and the other rat can't get off the wheel, so the wheel starts running and they're forced to run. If they're forced to run, they get negative health outcomes from the exercise. The other rat that chooses to run gets positive health outcomes. So just two different ways to position some support around you need to give love in terms of I want to contribute, I want to be here, and give the strong leadership that makes the things function well.
What a lot of rubbish. So I'm trying to disagree. You said disagree. The first
Well,
profoundly
disagree. I profoundly sorry. That is it's fascinating. So because one of the things I just picked up on there. So is it that age-old thing, and Byron, back to you, of understand what is the vision and where are you taking this company? The Google brothers talk about Google being more than just a search engine. You listen to Facebook, Zuckerberg, it's more about just connecting people. Well, actually, it is about connecting people. It's not about the Facebook, what we see as Facebook. So is it having clarity over the vision and getting people to buy in on that and then making sure you know what does that mean to them? And then to your point, Paul, talking about that second, third tier consequence, if we do achieve that and if we don't, is that what we're saying? I said that really quick. Hopefully that made sense.
Do you want to go first and I can answer many of those? I'm happy to go, but it was more fun that way.
So if you talk about the notion of purpose and connecting somebody to purpose, right? Most of the extraordinary things that have happened in the history of humanity weren't achieved by somebody that had a moderate interest in the outcome. I'm going to build the Great Wall of China because I am moderately interested in my defensiveness. I intend to be the first individual to scale Everest because I am moderately interested in cold climates, right? So this notion of, I'll just do it because all I know is the task leads to very moderate outcomes. If you want somebody to dip into themselves and really bring out their best, connect them to a purpose that's more than just the task, right? I mean, I'll give you an example right here today in this room. At its worst, you are here because somebody bought you a ticket or because it was in your diary that from 11:45 to 2 p.m. you are here, right? That is the minimum requirement. And there'll be people in this room looking at me right now and go, and what's wrong with that, right? At the other end of the spectrum, there will be people in this room going, this is an opportunity to build the next 5 connections that will shape my rise to be Brisbane's best paid executive or to be Asia's most capable private founder, all right? It's the same bloody task you're all engaged in. One person's seen it as a task, the other person has connected it to a higher purpose. So although it seems like sort of psychobabble bollocks, when we talk about culture and leadership connecting people to a higher purpose, if you want it in economic terms, if I connect you to the task, at best I'll get 70 cents out of my dollar as an investment in you, right? Which means I'm losing money on you basically. If I connect you to a higher order purpose and you bring me your absolute best on a daily basis, I'm getting between $1.30 and $2.50 from you. All right, so pick the difference between the company that loses money over time and the company that ends up as $1 trillion enterprise.
Well said. Any thoughts before I go into the next question?
Depends how long we've got.
About 30 seconds. Okay, a minute.
I fundamentally disagree. The story I would share is slightly longer than 30 seconds, but it's not long. Do you want me to do one or not? How long have we got? So the story I always think about in this lens, because I always feel like it momentarily feels a bit on the edge. There is a domestic services agency in the States, and the demographics of the area, they're called the angels, right? So they would come and do cooking and cleaning and do the shopping and prepare lunches and all these things, right? But the demographics of the area meant that most of the angels that were hired happened to be women of colour. And most of the customers happened to be white couples or white couples with kids oftentimes. And just the physical picture of it, the visual of it looked like slavery, especially in America. And the ability to retain staff for the service was diabolical. The people felt used and taken advantage of, and it had this really bad culture. So they got someone in, probably a smart guy like this, to help them out, and they interviewed some of the families and said, what's your experience? Like, well, before we had the angels, we were heading for divorce, right? We have 2 kids, we both need to work, so we have these really busy lives where we're rushing off to school and we're getting home late and the traffic's terrible and the 2 kids in different schools and the jobs are in different places. So we were eating takeout, right, all the time. And we didn't spend time with each other and we were really distant. We didn't spend time with the kids and we weren't being the parents we wanted to be. Our family was falling apart And we were very, very close to our relationship and our marriage terminating. Since we've had the angels, we have better nutrition, better relationships, better lives. We're happier, healthier in all ways, and our family is really great. So all of a sudden, for the angels, it was no longer this picture of slavery. It was, we are literally, quite literally, when we're making school lunch and we're doing the shopping, we are saving saving marriages and improving the quality of lives and children's nutrition. And that, connecting a task to a purpose, changed how they felt completely.
I think it was worth more than 30 seconds. What do you think? Yeah? Well said, mate. Very, very good. The thing is as well, I say this to leaders all the time, whether you like it or not, you're being watched. You're being watched by more people who you don't know than people who you do know. And even when I was sitting next to a big private equity guy yesterday at a luncheon at Brisbane Club before I got into my Ferrari and drove away. And he didn't have a photo of himself on his LinkedIn profile. And I said, why? And he goes, well, I don't want people to know who I am because we kind of operate in the shadows and so on and so forth, which sounded kind of cool, I thought. But then, and he said, well, you know what? I still get contacted on a regular basis. So even if you try to hide that social media presence, I guess, good luck. And because let's face it, if it's digital, it's there forever, right? So it's good comments. Thank you very much, everyone.